Sehr herzlich willkommen, verehrte Damen und Herren, liebe Kunstinteressierte, zu unserem Kongress zur Zukunft der Kritik. Ich freue mich sehr, im Namen der Akademie der Künste in Berlin und der Bundeskunsthalle hier solch eine großartige Gästeliste von RednerInnen, Kritikerinnen, Journalistinnen mit Ihnen gemeinsam begrüßen zu dürfen. Hier bei uns im Forum, aber auch am Livestream. Es freut mich sehr, dass wir in den nächsten 2 Tagen ein dichtes Programm anbieten können und auch 3 Tage lang in Berlin das nächste Woche weitergeht. Wir werden viel debattieren, diskutieren, in Austausch kommen und es ist mir eine große Freude, vor allen Dingen, dass Angela Lammert von der Akademie der Künste und Koya Reichert uns so ein fantastisch reichhaltiges Programm zusammengestellt haben. Sie haben dieses Thema initiiert. Ich bin damals sofort mit eingestiegen. Die Bundeskunsthalle ist ein Ort, die den Diskurs pflegt. Wir sind ein Ort, der vor allen Dingen auch als Pressezentrum gegründet worden ist.
We are a place which was partially established as a press center, and then at that time the Bundeskunsthalle was also the conference center of the German government, and Mr. Helmut Kohl received international guests at that time. So in this respect we have always maintained this dialogue, and in 1992 there was a major congress of the senses, and in 2020 when I came here to the Bundeskunsthalle we continued with a new format, Studio Bonn, which also covers a dialogue, a discourse, and we have very interesting talks, conversations, discussions. Last year, for instance, about specific values, and the Bundeskunsthalle was turned into an NFT, and the other day, together with the UN, we had a conference about global nervous systems, which we will continue, and next year on the agenda we will be having the major subject, where are they all? And Mr. Reichert put together the agenda for this discourse, and with the Petita Congress, that is what we call it, the Critics Congress, we can make a contribution to this very important subject. Elke Buhr, the editor-in-chief of Monopoly, said yesterday on SW3 that criticism is being eroded. Criticism of art has many voices, a plurality of voices, but what is lacking is experts. And we also think so. Voices are missing, which will provide a big overview, which will do their own research, who are committed to have a lot of knowledge, interdisciplinary knowledge, and they use it time and again with respect to a discussion of works of art. The culture sections in newspapers have reduced the space, texts are being shortened, often they are just taken over from other sources, a lot is being posted, and well, many subjects are coming up, but anyway, technical journalism on the broadcasting media and print media, above all, this is disappearing. And I can see it in many of my colleagues from my generation. There are numerous examples which indicate that the best people are going into the marketing industry, the art market, they do counseling and coaching, they take over communication for private profit-making companies and a lot more. So it's very important that we do talk about this. That is, what's going to happen tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and in future. It's a symptom of our time that news are overlapping, intersecting, the multiplicity of information is overflooding us, and the attention economy, which is a much used term, is low, very low, and we can see time and again that all these important subjects and the crisis are overtaxing us. The next panel, we'll call it hyperventilation. And this shows that people do not go into depth anymore. Complexity is going down, And the aesthetic judgment, which is so important to all of us, is at great risk. I would like to quote from the text announcing the Congress. Every person is a critic nowadays, but where is criticism? All of us are experts judging each other, but where do we take the criteria from? Every theater, every museum, every scientific institute is supposed to explain its own work and advertise it. Whereas independent conveyance categorization in the general media is disappearing, but without criticism there is no public, without public there is no art, and without art there is no democracy. And for this reason we will do some stock taking and try to analyze this prevailing situation. We are very pleased to be able to make a contribution, and we want to support this. And we thank our cooperation partners, in particular the Federal Center for Political Education, and next week it will be 70 years old, and it's still young and very vital. You wouldn't see it, and it fulfills a very important function which addresses mainly youth but also civil society as such. We also thank the AICA, that is the Association of Art Critics, and Madame Perrier will be speaking to you shortly. We wish you interesting, fruitful days, and we hope that all of us together can raise the commitment for a very broad audience. And some housekeeping information. We'll be partying into the night, so stay here up to the very end. And I'm pleased, and above all, I would like to thank the curators, Mrs. Lammer and Kolja Reichert, for the excellent organization of the Congress and also the editing work. I would also like to thank the team of Bundeskunsthalle, Mrs. Walter, above all, who made a major contribution towards this success. And there is also something else going on here in Bundeskunsthalle. We would like to recommend Ridiculously Yours, a very interesting exhibition, and there will be a guided tour by Mr. Heiser tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So enjoy this, and I will now hand over to Mrs. Karin Sander, the artist, and she's also the head of the section of visual arts at the Academy of Arts in Berlin. Thank you very much indeed.
Kein Corona.
I haven't got COVID. Now, according to the Wikipedia, which I checked on the 17th of November 2022, criticism is thinking, and it's very important, and it's upraising, human, corresponding, socialist, demanding, aspirational, and social, related, scientific, psychological, continuing, French, Greek, narrow-minded, lasting, inferior, envious, and in analog to a private law, contractual, German, ancient, Greek, German-speaking, individual, literary theory, thoughtful, aesthetic, normative, discursive, personal, extended, differentiated, specific, numerous, large, major, modern, practice-oriented, well-educated, stricted, over-confessional, critical of religion, English, central, astute, reliable, social, fundamental, civilized, universal, good, strong, powerful, common, ambitious, ontological, fundamental, pedological, architectural, possible, complete, analytical, synthetic, transcendental, complex, comprehensive, all-encompassing, practical, wide, transcendental philosophy, erroneous, narrow-minded, crossing borders, going beyond borders, independent, general, determined, theory of understanding civilized, generalizable, all-encompassing, economic, determining, written, non-written, Protestant, Catholic, capitalist, socialist, post-Marxist, incompatible, critical of science, church-related, sufficient, indispensable, unpleasant, unclarified, non-welcome, welcome, learned, useful, motivated, social, active, passive, gradual, constructive, empathic, emotional, decisive, Chinese, immanent, online, metaphysical, fought for, much coveted, balanced, impossible, historical, social, political, restricted, the only possible way, systematic, linking, transcendental, announced, interlinked, connected, available, integrated, embedded, and registered. According to the concept of Collier, Reich, and Langmuth, the future of critique is new, controversial, central, democratic, artistic, individual, accessible, productive, essential, modern, ancient Greek, cultural, aesthetic, social, political, journalistic, necessary, existing, civil, humiliating, critical, genuine, blunt, traditional, residual, global, European, US, American, white, uncontroversial, diverse, misleading, loud, digital, separating, strong, collective, historical, up-to-date, international, realistic, dominating, obsolete, common, personal, trained, structural, in terms of content, independent, sustainable, practical, human, elementary, indispensable, done with composure, discursive, with an impact on society, economically sustainable, designed, blockchain-based, parallel, interdisciplinary, narrow-minded, thematic, selected, commented, modified, changed, future, half-day, internal, broad, long-term, programmatic, separate, 5-digit, community-based, decentralized, experienced, anonymous, sufficient, long, and experimental. And the heading is here, a draft for the Congress, the future of criticism, in cooperation with the Academy of Sciences and Bundeskunsthalle in Bonn, and now at the weekend and also in the next week from the 24th to the 26th of November in the Academy of Sciences in Berlin. And I would like to welcome you with a big thank you to this conference in Bonn about the future of criticism. Thank you very much, Eva Kraus and Bundeskunsthalle. I would also like to thank Mrs. Lammert and Mr. Reichert, above all these two, who planned this congress in the long term and who put together the agenda, Ulf Herzogenrath, who provided the impetus to this, and all those involved in this. I would like to wish a very fruitful day and a lot of food for thought. Thank you very much indeed.
Liebe Kolleginnen, liebe Kollegen.
Now, dear colleagues, I would like to welcome you very cordially on behalf of the German section of the International Association of Art Critics, AICA, for short, and we are very pleased that you are attending this congress in person here in Bonn or by means of stream. And Bundeskunsthalle, the Academy of Arts, the Leuphana and the Humboldt Universities, and we have organized this congress together. Whereas you in are talking about the future of criticism in Bonn and in Berlin, I am representing, in my capacity as the president, the German section at the 55th International AICA Congress. And at present we are in Chile, in Valparaiso, and we will shortly continue our meeting in Buenos Aires. And here too, of course, we will place the focus on critique, on criticism, or more specifically, we will be focusing on the question of what are we talking about when in the 21st century we talk about art critique. And you will easily imagine that the numerous crises, ranging from the pandemic to climate change, are playing a major role here. We, as the European delegations, will certainly also refer to the war of aggression of Russia against Ukraine, with all the suffering, all the terror, which is also having a political, economic and social impact on us here in the West. And we must also bear in mind the terrible suffering of millions of people in Ukraine. And globally, we are being concerned time and again how apparently natural rules of a liberal and democratic existence are being jeopardized, in particular here in the American dual continent, in the two major countries, that is the United States and Brazil. And in connection with the uprising, autocratic governmental structures, we must remember that international AICA and our German section were established some few years after the end of the war with a view to supporting the free expression of opinions, cultural meeting and a solidaric discourse about political, beyond political and cultural borders. And one of the important fields of work of AICA is up to now a working group which is active at the international level against censorship, and it is supporting a freedom of expression. And I would like to wish you many stimulating and constructive discussions at your Congress, your Danièle Perrier. Dear participants of the Congress, dear guests, dear colleagues here in Bonn and in Berlin, who have prepared this Congress with such a great deal of commitment. Thank you very much indeed for being here. I would also like to welcome you to the Future of Criticism, the Congress, which will be continued in Berlin next week. As a member of the board of AICA, that is, I'm the treasurer, I'm very pleased that we can also make a contribution towards the success of this Congress, because the subjects which we'll be focusing upon are also the main items of our work as an association, and what is part of the occupation of a critic. What media do we use? What is our audience at present, in future? And what do we have to do in transcendental terms, and what does it mean to us to do so with a lot of effort, critically and self-critically? The Association Internationale de Critique d'Art, or AICA for short, was established in 1950 in Paris. As an NGO, it wants to improve the conditions for criticism, and it's keeping an eye on the situation of our colleagues all over the world. There is not only an open section, but also 65 international sections with critics from 95 countries. They are members of AICA International. The umbrella organization acts as a platform for overarching cultural work, and for instance, it fights against censorship and it supports the role of the criticism of art. AICA Germany, which has also existed for more than 50 years and it was established in 1990, is also making contribution, but it also organizes congresses, for instance, about the relationship of criticism of art in the East and the West last summer. It also issues awards to exhibitions and museums, and it also publishes the essays on the criticism of art. And Uta Reindl supports a new line of publications who will show you the booklets at the table next to the entrance to the Congress. German AICA consists of academic persons and members who are also active as curators, and also of journalists who often work on a freelance basis in the daily and weekly press. And as a result of this variety, we have a very useful, a very fruitful exchange within the association, which means that we also have very long meetings. But what is good about the meetings is that in the discussions we quite often contradict one another, and we must put up with these contradictions, and then we can find a differentiated perspective which reflects not only one opinion but a great many different opinions. AICA is a multi-voiced network which will continue to grow in terms of shades and size, and it can be extended, and it can also be a foyer, an entrance. And this metaphor was coined by Andrea Giesche, a theater critic, who referred to the need for a space for an exchange between art critics. To us, to AICA, and to all of us, I wish that we will be providing such an entrance not only, but that we can also fill it with life, a non-exclusive space where all of us who are involved in criticism can meet. Above all, at such moments when, in a metaphor, we have left some performance or a theater piece and we left the door, slamming the doors, and we can do so in a proper format. And then it's important that we wait for the others in the foyer so that we can have a very intensive discussion, exchange arguments, and perhaps create new formats together. But we should not only stick to our opinion after returning our blinders at the reception. In the foyer, not everything is shining and champagne. There is often a draft, it may be hectic, and you may have to queue up. Artists, critics, and members of the audience are meeting, and they come from different walks of life. But above all, the foyer is a space for a before and an after, where we mainly discuss about the creation of art. And the event which is awaiting us now has the potential to become such a foyer and anteroom for the future of criticism. And now I would like to wish you and us a very fruitful Congress, which beyond this weekend and beyond the next weekend will provide an important impetus to our work.